Colleagues, good morning to you all. My name is Kule Chitepo. I am the Partnerships Advisor to the Resilient Waters Program. And we're very excited this morning to invited you all to this, the first in a series of 4 structured webinars that we will be having over the coming 4 weeks. This particular webinar is looking at strengthening ecosystems and livelihood impact pathways for a resilient and inclusive Southern Africa, but primarily looking at how we are drawing lessons from our experience as a program in looking to improve access to safe drinking water and sanitation services. So we've invited all of you to come along from different backgrounds, from as government implementers, practitioners, policymakers, members of civil society, and we're hoping that you'll find this an exciting opportunity to share experiences in addressing and learning from some of our experience in addressing the issues relating to improving access to safe drinking water and sanitation services. We will be having 3 more presentations after this webinar, and I'll talk to these at the end of this webinar. But for now, I'd like to introduce to you our facilitator for this morning, which is Suvi Ramphal. Over to you, Suvi.
Thank you so much, Kule, and thank you for the introduction. Good morning, everyone. My name is Suvritha Ramphal, and I am a water sanitation hygiene specialist on the USAID Resilient Waters Program. As you can see on the screen, this webinar is being translated between English and Portuguese. So please, as you are joining, please would you select, there should be a tab that says interpretation at the bottom of your screen, and you should be able to select between English and Portuguese. If you are unable to do so, then you're going to struggle in listening to this webinar. So I encourage you to please select the correct interpretation, either English or Portuguese. I see some familiar names and not so familiar names on the webinar, so it's going to be interesting. As you join, please would you introduce your, in the chat box, write your name, the organization you're representing, and which part of the world you are from. We would love to know who we have joining us on this webinar. Okay, again, welcome to today's webinar. The topic of the webinar is accelerating change, moving from water, sanitation, and hygiene assessments to national and local interventions, focusing on giving you feedback from cases across Southern Africa, Angola, Botswana, South Africa, and Mozambique. We've just had a quick overview from our Chief Partnerships Advisor, Kule, who introduced that this is the first webinar in a series of webinars that the USAID Resilient Waters Program would be coordinating. A little bit of pressure that it's the first webinar, but with the participant list, I think it's going to be quite interactive and very interesting. I'm sure most of you would like to know, what is the USAID Resilient Waters Program? So let me share a little bit more about the program. For those of you that haven't been very intimately involved with the program, we've been operating in the Southern African region for almost 5 years. The program started in June 2018, and you'll see through the blue outlines that our footprint is actually the river basins of the Okavango River Basin as well as the Limpopo River Basin. So the core of our activities were concentrated in the footprints within those countries within the river basin. We've been operating for 5 years. We've been operating across 7 countries, and we were split across 4 core areas. And our main objective as a program was to build more water secure Southern African communities and ecosystems through improving the management of transboundary natural resources and increase access to safe drinking water and sanitation services. So you may ask yourself, this is quite a big objective to achieve or to reach. So how are we able to compartmentalize and focus our project activities? You'll see that the Resilient Waters Program was focused on 4 key areas in helping us achieve the objective of the program. We focused on the management and security of transboundary water resources in selected river basins. We then focused activities around increasing access to safe, sustainable drinking water and sanitation services. Thirdly, we focused on improving the ability of institutions in targeted communities to adapt to the impacts of climate change. And then lastly, we focused on the conservation of biodiversity and ecosystem services in key areas. And I would like to encourage you to continue participating in our webinar series as we highlight and touch on case studies across these 4 areas. So why are we here today? Well, we are going to be talking about some of the projects and partnerships and collaborations that we've been involved in under Objective 2 of the Resilient Waters Program, which is increasing access to safe, sustainable drinking water and sanitation services. So to give you a bit of background, we applied 2 approaches in trying to identify our entry points for working within Southern Africa. And the approach was at a national level and at a local level. At a national level, timeously, when the Resilient Waters Program started, the World Health Organization's GLASS survey, Global Analysis and Assessment of Drinking Water and Sanitation Services, was taking place at the end of 2018. And what we realized was that this is an assessment identifying where the gaps are within a national WASH sector. So we coordinated workshops to try and identify where were the major gaps and thus the biggest risk to water security within each country. And what we actually identified was that the area of sanitation, and more specifically non-sewer sanitation, which we all know is lagging behind significantly when it comes to increasing access to drinking water supply. So what we had thus done is use these and identified entry points for collaborations with national governments, South Africa and Botswana, and we formalized these collaborations in the form of technical assistance and in-kind support. At a local level, from our previous knowledge in previous USAID programs, the Southern African Regional Environmental Management Program, as well as the Resilient Program, Resilience in the Limpopo Basin Program, we already had sector knowledge around what the core issues were when it came to WASH. And one of the biggest things which resonated into Resilient Waters was the fact that 40 to 60% of existing infrastructure is just not being used. And instead of focusing our attention on increasing access, which in Southern Africa is the mandate of national local governance, the biggest issue was fixing the infrastructure that's already in place. And so we worked with local organizations in Angola as well as in South Africa through grant mechanisms to address this core issue. And so today, this webinar is pretty much aligned with the theme for World Water Day, which is about accelerating change. And what we've asked each of our country representatives is to reflect on what we have collaborated on as partners, but to pull out the key messages, the key results, and then really reflect on what has been the impact of this partnership on their sector, both at a national and a local level. You can see the structure of our presentation. We're going to have feedback at a national level from our national partners, and then moving on at a local level to our local partners, and then we will end off with a Q&A session. Just a few housekeeping rules. You are more than welcome to add your questions in the chat box. We are monitoring it, and we will be able to raise them in the Q&A session. Please keep your videos and microphones off. The speaker videos will be on. The webinar will be recorded. All presentations can be made available. And again, this webinar is being translated between English and Portuguese. So please choose an interpretation option. Otherwise, you're going to be very lost in the webinar, and choose the correct one. Okay, let's get to the exciting bits. So we're going to focus on we're going to get some feedback from our partner countries on what has been those catalysts of change that has accelerated impact at a national level within their sectors. And we're going to be starting with Ms. Wendy Sayoni, who is the Chief Sanitation Engineer for the Department of Water and Sanitation. I hand it over to you.
Okay, I'm Wendy from Botswana, from Department of Water and Sanitation. And we have a section called Sanitation Management Division as a division in Department of Water and Sanitation. So today I'll be talking about our collaboration with the Resilient Waters Program that I think we started way back from 2017, since we had a global analysis and assessment of sanitation and drinking exercise and drinking water exercise with them. So the outcome of that exercise was the sanitation unit was not formalized by then. There were no standardized formal mechanism for data collection and monitoring, especially for rural areas where we see a lot of on-site sanitation, because we find that we've got two systems in Botswana, the sewered and the non-sewered, and in most cases, the rural areas, we've got the on-site sanitation, which is the non-sewered system. And by then we had no budget for sanitation activities, no inclusive sanitation planning, and lack of education and awareness on safely managed sanitation. As I mentioned earlier, we had this exercise for last by 2018-2019, which part of it was funded by the Resilient Waters Program, and some of the items that were identified was the deficiency in management of sanitation services in Botswana, the development of sanitation roadmap, and the other collaboration that we had with the Resilient Waters Program was the National Sanitation Program, which is the product of the GLAS exercise. So eventually we had this National Sanitation Roadmap, and on it, we see the 11 activities which were identified to be done in Botswana pertaining sanitation management. And it was identified that it has to focus on areas which will be implemented to improve sanitation services in Botswana. And as I mentioned, the 11 activities were identified, and we are working on them. And again, the sanitation roadmap, we use it as a reference point in terms of progress for both the investment in sanitation management in Botswana, for infrastructure, and it's also, and for planning purposes, and for as well as the accountability, who is doing what. So it's a very, very critical, let me say, a critical reference document, yes, a very, very critical document for Department of Water and Sanitation in Botswana, as well as the country. So we use it every day to see how much we have gone in terms of improving sanitation management in Botswana. And the results, as pertaining the results, we had a very, very well-attended workshop this year, and the team that we are collaborating with, which is the Resilient Waters Program, we witnessed the workshop, and the workshop was held at Maung, talking about the sanitation management in Botswana, safely managed sanitation in Botswana. So we don't have to say much about it because they were there and they witnessed the proceedings of the workshop. Again, the results for the last process As I've mentioned before, we have the Botswana Sanitation Roadmap, which is our reference document as of now, and is guiding the country pertaining to sanitation management in Botswana. We've got the establishment of sanitation division. When I introduced myself, I said I'm from Department of Water and Sanitation, from sanitation division. So before that, we didn't have the sanitation division, but now we have the sanitation division, and it's working on the activities so that were identified by the last exercise, which gave birth to Botswana Sanitation Roadmap. So I'm very, very glad to talk about this and having the support from Resilient Waters so that we can have this as of now, the products that we are talking about. We have the class also as recommended for the establishment of the WASH team, but as of now we have the interim WASH team, which eventually I think before end of this year we'll be having the formal WASH team. The results, earlier on I talked about the roadmap having the 11 activities, and as of now we are working on some of them, and I can confirm that 5 of them they're on progress now, which is the development of institutional framework, the development of regulatory framework, the development of sanitation standards, the update of the investment program, increasing the scope of sanitation master plan to include the on-site sanitation and the fecal sludge management. So you can see that the progress is there pertaining to sanitation division, to sanitation management in Botswana from the collaboration of the DWS together with the Resilient Waters Program. The impacts, we as DWS, we are going to continue conducting the education and awareness. We are also going to execute the activities, that the 11 activities that I mentioned earlier on, which are in Botswana Sanitation Roadmap. We are also going to continue having the inclusive planning for sanitation investment, both the SWAT and non-SWAT infrastructure. And we are going to continue monitoring and evaluating, as well as reviewing and revising what is in the Botswana National Sanitation Roadmap, so that we enhance those activities for the betterment of our country. Thank you very much, colleagues.
Thank you very much, Wendy. That was a great presentation. When I started introducing Resilient Waters, I said one of our core objectives is to strengthen the livelihoods of the communities, and the manner in which we approach this is through strengthening ecosystems, biodiversity conservation, improving access to safe drinking water supply and sanitation. And right here, this partnership of focusing on establishing and really strengthening the sanitation unit, but focusing the attention of sanitation around the sanitation service chain is one of those approaches towards strengthening or improving water security within the ecosystem, and then also reducing potential contamination risks, but from a policy national level and hopefully filtering down to a local level. Wendy, thank you very much. And we will be looking forward to hearing a bit more from you in the Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Suvi and the team.
Okay, so we started in Botswana. We're going to come south, and we're going to hear about what the collaboration that we've been working on in South Africa. Our next speaker is Ms. Iris Mate. She is a director at the Department of Water and Sanitation in the Directorate of National Sanitation Support Services. She's going to take us through what have been some of those catalysts for change that have accelerated impact in the South African sanitation sector. Iris, over to you.
Thank you very much, Suvi, and thanks for the invitation. Colleagues, I'm Iris Mate from the Department of Water and Sanitation in South Africa. So I'll be taking you through the support that we received from Resilient Waters and the impact. Ladies and gentlemen, in South Africa, we've got 61% of households that are connected to public sewer systems. These people are using flush toilets. We also have 38% of populations that are using on-site sanitation facilities. Our priority during the MDGs was to ensure that everyone has access to sanitation services. So we provided, in most cases, on-site sanitation and ensuring that no one is left behind. But we didn't plan much about operation and maintenance. And this resulted in some of the piece or containment being full, and currently we're standing at 10% of the on-site sanitation systems that are full. And as a country, we didn't know what to do with it. There have been a lot of researches that have been done. Municipalities were struggling to say, how do we empty? And after emptying, where do we take the sludge to? Therefore, this fecal sludge management strategy is assisting us to solve the problems that we're experiencing with on-site sanitation. The support from Resilient Waters Program emanated from the analysis of the GLASS report. We had workshops that decided on two main support areas. One is the collaboration agreement between Resilient Waters and Polokwane municipality, where we piloted the sanitation planning tools and used that pilot as a case study for development of national fecal sludge management strategy. We wanted to ensure that the strategy is implementable and it's evidence-based. And at that level, we also had a steering committee that consisted of various stakeholders. Then the second collaboration agreement was with the development of the National Fecal Sludge Management Strategy. We also had a governance structure which consisted of various institutions that has a role to play in fecal sludge management. And I must say that this strategy is part of the departmental annual performance plan, which means that the project is owned at a ministerial level. All right, this strategy has created enabling environment for various initiatives. Fecal sludge management is a fairly new concept in the country. So we are now starting with the process of developing educational materials and awareness materials that are targeted at various role players to ensure that there's ownership and there's implementation of fecal sludge. Will also be starting with the guidelines for financial mechanisms and economic models. Our policy says that sanitation has economic value. So we like to look at various options to see what is viable or financially viable for a municipality in terms of treating fecal sludge. We have a partnership with one of our research institutions where we'll be undertaking the sheet or excreta flow diagram capacity building program. This is one of the action within the strategy. And finally, we'll be supporting the municipalities with classification of their wastewater as well as fecal sludge, so that we now start seeing fecal sludge and wastewater as a resource and not as waste, and then determine how can we use it for beneficial use. The other result is that at the national level, this strategy has opened some doors for various initiatives. We have integrated fecal sludge in some of the national documents. For example, the compulsory national standards for water and sanitation services. We've included issues of fecal sludge management, the sanitation services chain, to ensure that we are able to regulate. And the department is also in the process of amending our Water Services Act we've also included aspects related to fecal sludge management so that this creates an enabling environment for everyone in the sector to implement fecal sludge. The strategy has also strengthened some relationships and collaboration with various institutions. Just to give you one example from the Department of Forestry, Fishery and the Environment, they've now exempted environmental license conditions and considered norms and standards for treating sludge for beneficial use. For us, that is quite a major milestone. And looking at local level, municipalities are now starting to accept the concept of fecal sludge. We've got eThekwini municipality that have now included fecal sludge management in their sanitation policy, which is under review. And from a sanitation policy, they'll be developing the bylaws where they can now regulate at the local level. All right, now the impact beyond this partnership, we believe that sanitation has a potential to transition as a driver for water security. South Africa is a water scarce country, and we believe that sanitation can have a major contribution to saving water resources. We would like to see municipalities now, we're actually planning to have the first dedicated fecal sludge treatment plants, because currently fecal sludge, when municipalities empty, they take this to our wastewater treatment plant, whereas these were not designed to treat fecal sludge, the highly concentrated and solid type of sludge. We would also like to see fecal sludge as a resource and no longer as waste, so that we look at the entire sanitation value chain and see the beneficiation of fecal sludge. We believe that now that we've identified all the role players with their functions and actions in the strategy, from now on, as we roll out the strategy, we expect every role player to now start taking their actions, ensuring that we are implementing the strategy. Thank you very much, colleagues.
Thank you very much, Iris. Thank you for your time and for putting the presentation together and sharing with us just the results and the impact within the South African sector. What really stands out for me is between South Africa and Botswana is the focus on the the entire sanitation service chain, not only the non-sewage sanitation service chain, and looking at the potential impacts across that sanitation service chain, but also gearing their sector towards addressing the gaps according to the sanitation service chain. I already see that there are quite interesting questions in the chat box coming through. I would like to encourage our colleagues from DWS, Botswana and South Africa to have a read through and just to start thinking about potential responses to the participants. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so now we shared with you some of the feedback from a national level, the work that we've been collaborating on with partners, what we've seen, the catalyst, the change catalysts that have been identified and the impact that has been presented across the sector. And now we want to just focus on, well, what have we been doing at a local level? What have been those catalysts of change at a local level, and how has that transcended into impact? Next slide. Okay, we would like to move on to our colleague from the Shai municipality in Mozambique. I would just like to check if she is online before I move on. Has she? Yes, she's online. Fantastic. So I would like to introduce Ms. Geraldina Rafael. She works within the sanitation department within the Shai municipality in Mozambique. Geraldina, over to you.
Bom dia. Eu sou Geraldina Rafael, vereadora de Serviços Urbanos, no município da cidade de Xai.
In a Shai municipality.
Ok, tá bem. Sim, eu vou pedir para poderem.
In Xai-Xai, the sanitation, it depends, especially in the local context. So we use the toilet most of the time, in majority of the population, and these toilets, municipal, they use this kind of traditional toilets. We got septic, we got latrines, and we got two types of latrines. We got ecological latrines. We also at the system of the when they are full, we close them, we identify them, we identify the place so that we can open another one. Those who use the drains, we remove them from 2 to 3 years. The sludge that we remove, we expand in an area called Dengel. One of the biggest challenge in Xai-Xai city that we have is the lack of equipment to empty these kind of sludges, because the tractor that we have in the municipality is an old one, as you can see in the pictures. So the project on itself, as you can see, in terms of partnership with Resilient Waters, we had a training of about 20 technicians, and this training at the end, it finished with the elaboration of the flow of elaboration, as you can see on the picture. We also had at this point a partnership which will start with the donation for 1 tractor for the extraction of this. As I said, one of the challenges we had is the equipment to collect this sludge. So we have on the picture the partnership that we have, one of the visits that they did in Mozambique, and also the training for about 20 technicians. And the work which has been done, it came out with this flow diagram, as you can see on the right-hand side. Besides the training of the 20 technicians for the local flow, as a result, we had increased the capacity to understand the issue of safe sanitation, as we understand very well at the moment. There was a need also to capitalize another the compost center, which is a place that we can transfer all this sludge in fertilizers. From this partnership, we understood that it would be possible to have a safe place where we could deposit all our sludge and also capitalize in same place. Besides that, what we do at the moment that we live in an open space, but with the partnership, one of the positive results, we understood the result to use this compost center, and we also had some debates of a safe sanitation from the training we had with the communities. We had debates so they could understand this safe sanitation and what can be done to improve the issue of sanitation. We also understand that the sludge, also, they're very important for the training that we had. We had an experience of South Africa that they sell this kind of sludge. We were informed about that. And we also had an issue to license the private operators, because they were private operators, they were not licensed. So from this training, from this partnership, we started licensing all those focal sludge agents. Okay, here we have the picture of one of our colleagues that is training the community. So here you got also another picture, which is a compost center. In terms of what are the impacts and the gaining of this partnership, we can say that We'll continue to sensitize the municipality for this best safe management, sanitation, and we also try to look or improve our equipment and tools so that we can operate for this safe sanitation. We'll continue to look for partners that will be interested in adding their support for this sludge. And I thank you.
Thank you very much, Geraldina. Thank you for your time. We appreciate you presenting and sharing with us your insights related to our mutual collaboration. What's interesting for me is we've had two presentations from the national departments showing us the possibilities and the impact at a national policy strategy level. And what we're seeing is just the impact at a local level, but also understanding the core challenges and further emphasizing the need for stronger policy and stronger regulation around sanitation, non-sewage sanitation, looking at the entire sanitation service chain to identify the potential to de-risk any contamination pathways both to the environment and to humans. It was just a great connection from a national to a local level. Thank you so much, Geraldina. Next slide. Great. So we're moving away from sanitation, and now we're looking closer at drinking water supply and also a little bit around community-led total sanitation. I would like to introduce our next speaker. I believe it is actually going to be Hernani and not Kupi. Please correct me if I'm wrong. You're more than welcome to put your video on. And yes, so our speaker is from the Development Workshop Angola. They are a local NGO operating out of Angola. I would like to hand it over to you.
Ok, agora como é que me ouvem?
Much better, thank you.
Ok. Yeah, eu, como disse inicialmente,
As I said initially, my name is Hernan Carlos Pachote. I'm the project coordinator for water and resilience in BA province, Angola. I'm here to do our presentation of this project, which was provided by Kimon. I also wanted to inform that this presentation, it was supposed to be done by our manager of water and sanitation in Angola, Mr. Coop Batista, but unfortunately he couldn't do because he's in other assignments of the organization here in Angola. Okay, to inform that what drove us the partnership with Angola, with water resilience, as you all know, because it's been explained on this present. This was developed in the BA province and in two municipalities, Kwitu and Xingual. The main objective of the interest of this partnership is exactly a lack of the knowledge of the communities in relation to the biggest problem, which is sanitation, which is linked to community, and the existence of our best management project, which is called the Mojeka. And before, we didn't have a lot of involvement of the communities in concrete actions of these projects of social impact. The community participation for its own sustainability of the actions. So we did not start in the past. And also the over supply of the open space, this was visible and noticed in Kwitu municipality, and part of Xingwali municipality, Mojeka, it wasn't functioning, and the high number of water supplies which contribute for small resilience of the community when it comes to water and acquirement. As you can see, the picture which I illustrated here is what I've said. Okay, when the main domain of this partnership was involved in key points, you can see the pictures of some trainings which took place, which were implemented during this project, which are the catalytic change that will contribute for a change in the biggest scale on this project, being it the training and mobilization, which has been implemented, which was done within the households. So these trainings, we had some debates, workshops. As I said before, they contributed a lot for a large number so that the community could improve its knowledge in acquiring to the challenge of this resilience. The involvement of the committee in all phases of this project for more appropriation to consider that really all the actions, they are the main mentors in terms of continuity and their own sustainability and dependence, and also it was of the catalysts that brought a lot of change. So, and also to involve the 4 municipalities of the 4 principles of this Mojeka project. So that was the way that contributed a lot to catalyze these changes, because Mojeka is divided into 4, which is community participation, involving most more the communities, and the centralization of the partnership and decentralization within the base, so that all of them other associations of the water consumers could be able to implement their activities without depending of external agents, for example, DW and other intervening of private sector on the administration itself. So it means within themselves, they will be able to solve their own problems. To decentralization or the establishment of the partnership in a moment, it's important because they can have a contact with another agent that can reinforce their work for water supply, for instance, for the parts supply, and another project which can also continue with these model principles. And finally, the issue of accountability. Those are the 4 principles that the Mojeka project can foresee. This water accountability, it's important for Mojeka that they can also be responsible for all the service, that they can be involved in their communities, that they can have more authority for the beneficiary, and the monthly contribution that they all do for the sustainability of water sanitation. With visible change through the partnership, we have to underline the fact that is to the recovery of 9 points from the community, and through the training of 212 members of the community for the implementation of water pumping, manual water pumping, and the establishment of water association communities, and necessarily with a coverage that will supply about 8,248 people. And also like to take this opportunity to say that this recovery of these 9 water points, there's a contribution that came from the community itself with a social mobilization of this project, because this project didn't foresee the construction or the rehabilitation or the cost of the construction or rehabilitation of water system. But through the social mobilization of this project, it was possible to involve the community, and with Mojeka involved the community. They were able to understand and to have an internal organization through some contributions, some with a small amount, and either with beans, maize, what they produce more. We were able to get some fund to buy some parts, for example, centralizers, variants, and those materials that are always used in these water points. And through our intervention, we were able to get some private agents that were able to sell this kind of material. And through this training and capacitation of this community, those points were recovered. And you can imagine with a coverage of about 8,248 people. And also the fact that our technical team produced our database and map, and inclusively with geographic coordinations, as well as the training of the technician when it comes to GIS, which is a geographic system. It was also very important because when we started this project, one of the biggest issue that we faced when we collected the information from municipal and administration, we felt that the base which were supplied information, they were low. So we thought at that point that there was a need to train these technicians in geographic system information and other packages so they could be able, they can also work through GPS, and they can also work through this GIS program so that they can locate the communities to have geographic coordination. That was done throughout the project with a lot of evidence. And we also have to mention here that this contribution, that our affiliation fee of 12 water points, those were affiliation fees on which were recovered were these water points, and that was a continuity. So we can also maintain those monthly affiliation that each family that makes use or consumes or benefit from this point of water is got a small amount which has been defined by themselves. If this amount that we sustain this water point. And at the bottom here, you can see this map, which was produced by the technical team through this GIS training. And the other side, you can see you got what recovered from the community with this monthly affiliation fee, which is done. Briefly, here are the changes. You can see that we saw through the partnership that was to eradicate the open space. We have about 700 latrines which were produced and included 899 mil kwanzas for the inclusion of this amount to sustain the Western, which is Shingwal administration, which contribute to keep continuity. Here you can see the impacts of the changes. As you can see, that was a meeting which took place that resulted in the inclusion of this amount. The distance when shortened that before were long through the water points. Now we don't have the water supply on open space. And today, the communities, they feel today that they own this project. And the biggest impact of the change, you can notice that is the increase of number of children with a practical for hands washing at schools. And today, the community, they also have co-participation of families that they have these cleaning communities areas. And I thank you. This teacher is our manager of this Angola, as you said at the beginning, but unfortunately he is not with us. And I thank you, and my apology if I exceeded the time.
Thank you so much, Hernani. You know, it just goes to show that there's a wealth of work that has taken place at a local level. And when I was chatting to the speakers as we were preparing for the webinar, you know, we started off with quite a large number of slides, and it only goes to show that there's such an impact that we've made at the various scales and the various levels that we work, that it's so difficult to condense it in 10 minutes and 15 minutes. And we know this is what we experience with webinars. But I also would like to open the opportunity for any questions to Hernani in the Q&A session. And Hernani also used the Q&A session as an opportunity to drive that one more point that I may have rushed you on when you were going through your presentation. So thank you very much. We would like to move on to the next slide and to our last speaker. This is Ms. Letitia Mochehoa. She is the program coordinator from the Waterberg Biosphere Reserve. And she's going to be talking to you about the work that we've collaborated on relating to local communities and improving accountability and just ownership of the local infrastructure and repairing and maintenance of local infrastructure in communities in the Limpopo province of South Africa. Over to you, Letitia.
Thank you very much, Subi, and good morning to everyone. And thank you for the opportunity to allowing us to share our lessons and also experiences. And the Waterberg Biosphere Reserve was officially designated as a UNESCO site back in 2001 to promote community participation in the management and ownership of their natural resources, as well as conservation of biodiversity based on local efforts. This is achieved through collaboration and partnership and constant community engagement with like-minded stakeholders and partners. All right, with regarding to access to water in the Waterberg, it is a well-known fact that water scarcity is a global concern. This is due to inadequate financial and human capital for the governance structures necessary to support sustainable water resource development. And it is no different from the Waterberg. With regard to factors that were found to contribute to lack or limited access to water in the Waterberg, one of them being issue of population growth. This results in water scarcity, and it's even worsened by the ever-increasing demand on the water supply. And this further escalates due to issues of urbanization, unsustainable use of water resources. Secondly, the issue of degradation of our water ecosystems such as our wetlands and our rivers, which deteriorates the quality of the water. And in addition, the issue of data, we take this for granted that information availability contributes to access to water. So lack of data and information results in weak monitoring systems. And also it poses a very high risk to decision making, especially in municipal level when they plan for community development projects. And again, issue of proper institutional arrangement in place, in that there's always miscommunication with regard to roles and responsibilities from different water boards, your catchment management agencies, and also municipalities and the communities themselves. Lastly, lack of or poor maintenance of the existing infrastructure is found to be one of the issues that affects the access to water. So we've partnered with the Resilient Water Program back in 2020 when we we got awarded to develop what we refer to as the Strategic Environmental Management Plan. All right, we partnered with the Resilient Water Program back in 2020 when we implemented the Strategic Environmental Management Plan in order to map areas to be considered for the renewal and the expansion initiatives that the Biosphere Reserve have embarked on. And part of the activities during the SEMP project was to collect the socioeconomic data in 60 villages where we recorded the results of individuals and households questionnaire that were taken in those communities. And we collected data in 60 villages where one element kept on popping in, the issue of access to water and how communities can address those issues. So gaps that were identified was the issue of partnership between, or the lack of partnership between communities and the municipalities. Secondly, the issue of poor planning from the municipalities to address issues of population growth with regard to the water supply and the demand. And then also we realized, or we recorded a gap in the communication between the water committees and the relevant water authorities, in that water committees at the village level were not taking responsibilities on issues of water provision. And also we found out there's no clear communication as to who's responsible for what. For example, there was a miscommunication between the pump operator and the water committees, in that the pump operator thought that they needed to report to the municipality. In reality, they had to start from the community level. And then also the issue of capacity building from community level was one of the gaps that were identified. So from that exercise, we were able to then capture some acceleration of local service delivery after the water governance training. So the water governance training came in place after the results from the SEMP project. And then we then implemented the water governance training with the aim to capacitate communities on in identifying and also in resolving their water issues at their villages. From that, we then, one of the accelerators of change is that communities took an initiative in taking the discussion around the challenges that they face to their leaders and also to their councillors in identifying those challenges, but most importantly, coming up with solutions. They've even taken a more further step in taking accountability. For example, they took a decision to start looking after their village water infrastructure. They've also taken an initiative to educate other community members on water conservation. And then another element is the ability, or the opportunity to interact with the Water Service Authority. Through this project, we were able to partner and collaborate and also communicate the findings with the Water Service Authorities, which is something that we did not or we couldn't do before the partnership that we have with the Resilient Water Program. The partnership with the Resilient Water Program have awarded us, have enabled us to achieve so much. I'm just going to outline some few results. One of the results is that we managed to sign an MOU with the University of Limpopo to expand training and also to include water research, in that we will be receiving students from the University of Limpopo to partake or to implement water-related projects. And then also there's constant discussions amongst us with the Department of Water and Sanitation to establish the village water forums, and also to keep on supporting what we refer to as the water champions at the community level. And then also we managed to, through the funding, we managed to establish the Waterberg Youth Network. This came about after we posted our water governance training pictures on Facebook. So more young people came through and said we have ideas around projects at the community level. We then established the Waterberg Youth Network. And then also we established a good relationship with the traditional leaders, in that we are part of the traditional leader forums to continue supporting the WBR initiative in communities. In total, we've trained 488, and this number can be more because in some villages, we asked for 7 people, but they brought 10 or 11, so it could be more than that. But of the 488, 246 of them are women, and then 189 of them represented young people. And this training was implemented in 60 villages across 2 districts. And then in addition, some villages have taken an initiative to integrate the lessons that they've learned from the class or from the training itself to activate or to start or to contribute to changes in their own communities. For example, one village, it's the Vedu community, which mobilized to their own communities. They even contributed funds from their own pockets to fix their water pump, which happened to be in a river, by the way, which could be the more challenged thing to do. And then also they have cleaned their reservoir. In addition to that, communities such as Mandiwana in the Vembe region, Mamatlakana and Nkirikitlana, they also took it upon themselves to incorporate the lessons that they took from class, to take it further, to then educate other communities, and also to report back to their village traditional leaders. And also just yesterday, I received an update from Mamatlakala that they managed to fix their borehole. They also managed to change their system from manual to automatic, and all their water system is working. And then also one of the ways in which we make sure that this goes beyond is that we took the results and the lessons learned and the experiences to incorporate them into our ongoing UNESCO expansion initiative, so that the information drawn from this has been packaged into our UNESCO document. One element that I need to share with colleagues on this one is that no biosphere reserve can function on its own. We partner, we facilitate, we collaborate, and then we are open to networking. So impact beyond the partnership with the Resilient Water Program is that we're going to reignite and strengthen our relationship with government, private and civil society organizations. And then I've mentioned the signing of the MOU with the University of Limpopo. On the 2nd week of May, we are going to host them in the Waterberg for water research in Daba with their 4th year students. And then also one of the takeaway messages or impact beyond this, it's the support that we continue to get from other organizations. In actual fact, the other organizations have even approached the Biosphere Reserve to take this further, to increase the number of people that have been trained to take the training to other areas that we did not take before. We hope, we're going to continue monitoring and also evaluating the maintenance and repairs of services infrastructure in different villages throughout, even beyond the partnership. And also we're going to continue to support youth and women initiative at the community level. For example, the garden initiatives that we've been supporting throughout this partnership. And also we're going to collaborate with more organizations even beyond this. And we welcome any collaboration from other organizations in and outside the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Letitia. And again, I apologize for rushing you. And please, if there's a point that I pushed you on that you haven't made, you're more than welcome to make it during the Q&A session. Thank you so much, Letitia, for your time and for preparing the presentation. One thing that really stood out to me is when in sharing your feedback on the impacts beyond resilient waters, is there, and it's also a question that I would like to pose to those that are on the call, has anything piqued your interest in potentially taking forward or seeing that there's possibilities where you could further collaborate with these organizations, or if there are opportunities to further work in specific areas? Because the impact that Letitia has just presented, the stakeholders, sorry, the partners that you've been able to attract through this particular collaboration just goes to show that the impact does filter beyond the program. And I wish you well, Letitia, with the new partners that you brought on board with the WBR. Thank you very much. And let's move on to the next slide. And we are also now moving on to the next session. I'm sure you're probably tired of hearing my voice. So I'd like to introduce Ms. Robin Tompkins. She is the Senior WASH Advisor to the USAID Resilient Waters Program, and she will be facilitating the next session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Suvi. You're a hard act to follow. Yeah, we've already had quite a lot of involvement in the chat. So I'd just like to check that some of the questions have already been answered. I'd just like to go through those before I open it to the panel. And you had a question for Wendy, which she's answered. I hope that you've seen that in the chat. It was with regard to the World Bank loan that Botswana has and whether there are sanitation projects in that. There are the sanitation management framework, on-site sanitation and fecal sludge management guidelines, which is really exciting. There was also a question about in Shai, the water table being very close in some regions and how to prevent that. Geraldina responded, one of the solutions is to guarantee safe disposal, and Shai is working on using the composting center that they have and putting that into operation as a safe disposal site. Iris also answered a question regarding activities that are supported by grants. I'm not quite sure in what context that was asked, but Iris did answer with regard to South Africa. Activities are supported by the municipal grants that we have, the financing structures we have here, and that treatment facilities are immovable assets and therefore supported by the municipal grants. I'm not quite sure if the question was about donor grants, like the grants that Resilient Waters implemented. But I'd like to open this up. There are some questions in the chat. I'll come back to them, but I'm sure that people in the audience have some burning questions. So perhaps let's hear a voice other than mine. And in this panel discussion, would anyone, are there any hands going up? Aha, there's a hand from Graham Paul from USAID. Over to you, Graham.
Hi, Robin. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
At this moment, can I ask a question to Geraldina? Geraldina spoke of contamination pathways, I think was the term she used, but she also highlighted how sanitation can have an impact across the whole river basin. Could she tell us a little bit more about the linkages between sanitation and the river basin and how that can be strengthened from a policy or a planning perspective?
Great, thank you. Geraldina, are you, do we have our interpreters online?
No, but okay.
She said she didn't understand. Could you please repeat?
Yes,
Graham, could you please
pleasure.
repeat? Yes, go ahead, Graham.
Of the contamination pathways and how contamination or sanitation can have an impact across a river basin. How can sanitation and the river basin be strengthened in policy or planning?
Ok. Bom, o primeiro devo dizer que
Well, first, I would like to say that we are next to Limpopo River. So the system that we're using currently, we don't have any treatment center. What are the sludge? We got a direct impact. It's got a negative impact for the way. And we also made a reference of that issue here in Shashai City. In that partnership, one of the issues that were brought up is to safeguard what is the contamination, to avoid the contamination of a Limpopo River. So as a municipality at this point in time, the effort that we're doing is to see how best can we treat all these sludges. What is to transform them into fertilizers. We get a compost center. We got this compost center, which he had a partnership with the Dutch. And at this point, there's a work that you need to do that we can put it in progress. So when we finish up, it will add a lot of value to avoid the contamination of Limpopo River, because we got all the treatment. But we also have another challenge, that the challenge is most of sanitation in Shashai is the local community. So we open it, the latrines, when it's full, we close, we open another one next door. So it's a big challenge that we're facing at the moment. We got an example of an area where ecological latrines, which are next of the bore water. So as a way to safeguard or to protect that bore wall, we created these ecological latrines. So desanitation versus contamination of the river, it's almost direct. First, for the type of sanitation that we have. I'm not sure if I was able to answer the question. I'm not sure if I was able to answer. That's all I can say at the moment. And I thank you.
Thank you, Geraldina. I think the type of sanitation is obviously so important, and that consideration of what is the context is absolutely critical when we're thinking about the impact of sanitation on the broader basin. So thank you for that. I see Orlando has her hand up.
Yes, good afternoon. Robin, this is for Geraldine. I think she missed the part where she needed to say how the policy can really be reinforced to ensure that there's this link between the work that they do at the municipality and basin-wide protection. So let me translate that to her to see if she can respond. Thank you. Geraldine, Geraldine, a pergunta do Graham tem a ver...
Graham's question, it has to do what kind of policies that can be prepared, that we can establish, so that the work that you're doing within the municipality, for you to do your mandate, which is sanitation within the municipality, what can we do as policy to reinforce that linkage between sanitation and water safety that has to do with the basins? How can you make sure that that happens? I'm not sure if here on this participant, we got now of National Director of Waters. Maybe that is the right person to do, because the policies are within national level. And if you had someone of national directors of waters, here present maybe could be the right person to assist, because we not us which are responsible for the policies, especially when it comes to water. That's on a national level. I'm not sure if there is no one representing national directors of waters that can be able to assist us. Maybe can be answered at another stage. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Geraldina. We may not have someone at national level from Mozambique in this webinar, but we definitely have national level people from Botswana and from South Africa. And this, obviously, as USAID Resilient Waters, we're really concerned with the question of water security. How have there been challenges for you, and this question is for Wendy and Iris, around highlighting the linkages between sanitation and water security, particularly non-sewage sanitation, obviously, is water efficient sanitation. Have you had challenges? Have you encountered challenges in identifying those linkages in the work that you've been doing with Resilient Waters? So I think we can ask Iris to go first.
Thank you, Robin, for the question. As I indicated earlier on, South Africa is a water-stressed country. And considering that 61% of our households are using a waterborne sanitation system, we believe that these systems are no longer sustainable. Therefore, there's an urgent need for the country to move towards adopting alternative sanitation systems. Because the strategy is looking at the entire sanitation value chain. So when you talk about the first component of the sanitation service chain, that's where we need to be looking at alternative sanitation systems to ensure that we reduce the demand of water. And we believe as a country that sanitation can contribute so much to water security, because you use how many liters, 7 or 9 liters to flush just 250 mils of urine, or the other way around. So for us, yes, that is the linkages to say with climate change, with our situation in terms of water resources, definitely from a water resource point of view, that's where we should be looking at. And the protection as well of the water resources, it also comes with all the planning that need to be put in place, the environmental assessments that are required, ensuring that we don't only protect the surface water, but also groundwater within the basin. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Iris. Morena, I did see your hand. I'd like to go to Wendy. Water security is obviously a huge issue for Botswana, and there's a lot happening in sanitation right now. So what are the linkages you're seeing and the challenges you're encountering there, Wendy?
Okay, thank you, Robbie. Pertaining to linkages between sanitation and water security, I can just say, since you know, like my colleague from South Africa, Botswana is a water scarce country, so we are having less water for our socio-economic activities. Hence, we are working on recovering the wastewater that we have used. So right now we are working on a strategy, a safe wastewater reuse strategy, which will eventually give us a way how to safely use the water that we have used for the social activities, for reusing the water that we had used. So I think it will give us a guide, a clear guide as per the reuse of the wastewater, let me say the effluent. Then for non-steward, we know very well, again, I will stress the issue of Botswana being a water scarce country. So since for non-steward, we use less water in the sanitation. I think we agree with me with that. So more water is going to be used for other activities rather than flushing and all those for sanitation. So in a way, we are saving the less water that we have. And again, since we advocate for safely managed sanitation in Botswana for non-steward, advocating for that because we are protecting the scarce resource that we have. So that's why the guidelines now, we are working on the on-site sanitation guidelines so as to protect the scarce water resource that we have in the country. So I guess I've answered you. Robs?
Yes, thank you very much, Wendy. I think we've got very little time left, and I don't know if we're going to get to all the questions, but I'd just like, there's a question in the, has anyone else got a burning issue that they want to put their hand up for before I ask this? But this theme is developing quite nicely. There's the chat from Letitia, that she's talking about engaging stakeholders on the impact of climate change. And there was, the first question in the chat was from Peter Hawkins. And I think it'll leave it out there for anyone to answer. Sanitation is the major, from the panel, sanitation is the major issue, absolutely yes. And non-sewage sanitation is very often the answer. Is it necessarily the case that non-sewage sanitation is the issue? So I think in the light of this discussion, if our panelists could just weigh in on what is the burning issue in the wash sector? What is the burning issue? Can we go to Letitia first?
Thanks very much, Robin. From the top of my head, one element that from the Waterberg Biosphere Reserve we noticed or captured, it's the issue of community involvement and participation from onset. So those issues, yes, they are there, but when communities are not engaged from onset, then they just create more issues afterwards. I'm saying this because during the training, the trainer will ask first thing first, what are your community challenges? And none of them will say, we are the problem. They will say, the municipality is the problem. So it means that there's that element of not taking ownership, not taking accountability, always blaming the municipality for even little things. But we are grateful that by the end of the training, the trainees have then taken a stand to say, we are not going to wait for the municipalities for minor infrastructure repairs. We will repair them by ourselves. As and when there's a need for financial support from the municipalities, we will engage with them, but if they don't come through, we will take initiative to raise our own funds and address those issues.
Okay, so yeah, there's the issue of communications that has, as Graham is saying in the chat, come up a lot. We haven't got the time. I wish we had more time. I wish we had another couple of hours to discuss all these things. It's always this way in a webinar. I do have to give some time to, we are a minute over, and I have to give some time to Kule to wrap up. There is no way that we could have got through everybody's questions in the time that we had for this discussion, but it is great to see that there is progress being made well beyond Resilient Waters, and great to see those new partnerships and new thoughts that are developing in the different countries we've worked in. So I think I'm sorry that we didn't have any more time, but I do need to hand over to Kule to wrap up.
Okay, thank you very much, Robin and Suvi, for that previous section. On behalf of the Resilient Waters Program, USAID Resilient Waters Program, which is implemented by Chemonics International, I'd really like to take this opportunity to thank all our partners that came onto the webinar today, and particularly to thank our friends and partners that gave of their time to give the presentations, from Mewendi from Botswana, Mrs. Mati from South Africa, Senora Geraldina from Fashai, Signor Ermani from Development Workshop Angola, and our lovely sister Leticia from the Waterberg. Thank you all very, very much from all of us at Resilient Waters. We really have learned a great deal from this interaction today. As I remind you of what we're trying to achieve, colleagues, from this webinar series, we are looking at how we can strengthen the pathways that build ecosystems and livelihoods resilience across Southern Africa. And we've learned from the sessions this morning around how we can look at issues from a national or regional perspective. We looked at local level with the municipalities that talked to us, as well as with the NGOs, the two NGOs that gave us their experiences. And I think this has been extremely useful in taking us to our next webinar, which will be held next week. I encourage you to please share information about these webinars that are upcoming. Next week's webinar will be looking at building innovative approaches towards human-wildlife conflict challenges. And again, that is the focus, the topical focus of the discussion next week. But at a broader level, we are wanting, as Resilient Waters, to engage our partners, our civil society in Southern Africa, researchers, practitioners, and let's look at next week's topic in the context of building pathways that can help us to build a more resilient and inclusive Southern Africa. So thank you very much once again, and please do join us next week on the 11th at the same time for our next webinar in the series of 4. Thank you very much.